The Arrival DR. Mark Rivers worked late in his small research station on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The ice mining facility was quiet at night, with only the hum of life support systems breaking the silence. Mark studied mineral samples from the day's drilling operations, his coffee growing cold as he focused on his work. A loud crash echoed through the station's corridors. Mark looked up from his microscope, listening carefully. The sound came from the main airlock. He grabbed his emergency kit and hurried toward the entrance. The outer airlock door had been forced open. Ice crystals covered the floor, and the emergency. Lights flashed red. Mark checked the atmospheric readings. Everything was stable. He approached the inner door controls and activated the viewing screen. A figure lay crumpled on the airlock floor. It was clearly not human. The being was tall and slender, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light. Long silver hair spread around her head like spilled mercury. She wore a torn flight suit that looked advanced but damaged. Mark hesitated. First contact protocols required him to alert Earth Command immediately. But the being appeared injured, possibly dying. Her chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. He made his choice. Mark activated the inner door and knelt beside the alien woman. Her eyes opened, large, violet eyes that seemed to hold intelligence and fear. She tried to speak, but only soft, musical sounds came out. "Easy," Mark said gently. "You're safe now." The alien woman reached out with a trembling hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, with skin that felt surprisingly warm. She touched Mark's face, and something strange happened. A warm sensation spread through his mind, and suddenly he could understand her thoughts. Her running. "They will find me. Mark helped her to her feet. She was taller than him by several inches, and despite her obvious weakness, she moved with natural grace. Her violet eyes never left his face, studying him with curiosity. He guided her to the medical bay, where she collapsed onto the examination table. Mark's medical training was basic, but he could see she had been injured. Burn marks covered her arms, and her left shoulder appeared dislocated. As he worked to treat her wounds, the alien woman watched him constantly. Every time their skin touched, he felt that strange mental connection. She was trying to communicate something important, but her thoughts came in fragments. Bond. One mate. For life. Mark didn't understand what she meant, but he could feel her gratitude and something else. A deep, growing attachment that seemed to strengthen with each passing moment. The woman's injuries were more serious than they first appeared. Her species had different biology than humans, but Mark could see she was exhausted and malnourished. She had been running for a long time. "What's your name?" Mark asked, speaking slowly. She placed her hand on his chest and projected a sound into his mind, something like Kira. Then she touched his chest again, questioning. "Mark," he said. "My name is Mark." "Mark," she repeated in his thoughts, and somehow it sounded beautiful in her mental voice. Over the next few hours, Mark learned more about his unexpected visitor. Kira's people were called the Thaler, and they came from a distant star system. Her ship had been damaged in some kind of attack, and she had barely escaped with her life. But there was something else, something that made Kira's violet eyes shine with an emotion Mark couldn't quite identify. Every time she looked at him, he felt that strange warmth in his mind, growing stronger. As dawn approached on Europa, though there was no real dawn in the permanent twilight of Jupiter's shadow, Kira's condition improved. She sat up on the medical table and spoke to Mark in her musical language. This time, he understood her perfectly. "My people bond for life with one mate," she said, her voice soft but clear in his mind. "When we choose forever. We cannot change this once it begins." Mark felt a chill that had nothing to do with Europa's cold atmosphere. What are you saying? Kira's eyes met his, and he saw fear there, but also hope. I have chosen you, Mark Rivers. The bond has already started. I can feel your emotions, your thoughts. You can feel mine. Mark stepped back, overwhelmed. That's impossible. We just met. We're different species. The heart does not care about species, Kira said simply. And now, neither do our souls. We are connected, whether we wish it or not. Outside the station, something moved in the darkness between the ice formations. Kira's enemies had found her trail, and they were coming. The bond deepens. Mark stared at Kira, trying to process what she had told him. The idea that they were somehow connected seemed impossible, yet he couldn't deny the strange sensations he felt whenever she was near. Her emotions seemed to flow into his mind, like water finding its level. You're telling me we're bonded? Mark asked. Just like that? Kira nodded, her silver hair catching the station's lights. Among my people, the Thaler, bonding is not a choice. We make with our minds. It happens when two souls recognize each other. It has never happened between a Thaler and another species before. She stood up from the medical table, moving carefully because of her injuries. Even hurt, she carried herself with natural elegance. I felt it the moment you helped me. Your kindness, your courage to save a stranger. My soul knew you were the one. Mark ran his hands through his hair, overwhelmed. This is crazy. We've known each other for a few hours. Time means nothing to the bond, Kira said softly. She approached him slowly, as if afraid he might run away. I can feel your confusion, your fear. But I can also feel something else. You are not entirely unhappy about this. Mark wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. There was something about Kira that drew him in ways he couldn't explain. When she looked at him with those violet eyes, he felt complete in a way he had never experienced before. What does this bond mean exactly? He asked. We will share emotions, thoughts, even physical sensations to some degree, Kira explained. We will always know if the other is in danger or pain. We will need to be near each other. Separation causes great distress for bonded pairs. And if one of us dies? Kira's expression grew sad. The survivor usually follows within days. We are not meant to exist apart once the bond is complete. Mark felt a chill. Complete? You mean it's not finished yet? The bond grows stronger with time and contact. It will be complete when we... Kira's pale blue skin darkened slightly. What Mark realized was probably a blush. When we fully accept each other as mates. Before Mark could respond, the station's emergency alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors, and the computer's voice echoed through the speakers. Unknown ships detected approaching the station. All personnel report to emergency stations. Kira's eyes went wide with fear. They found me, she whispered. Mark moved to the communication console and activated the external cameras. 3 sleek, dark ships approached Europa's surface, their hulls reflecting no light. They moved with purpose, heading directly for the research station. Who are they? Mark asked. The Void Hunters, Kira said, her voice filled with terror. They destroyed my home world. They hunt the Thaler because our bonding ability threatens their plans for control. What plans? They want to create a galaxy where emotions and connections between beings are eliminated. They believe such things make species weak. The Thaler. Prove them wrong. Our bonds make us stronger, not weaker. The lead ship began broadcasting a message in harsh, mechanical tones. Mark's computer translated it. Surrender the Thaler female. Comply, and your station will be spared. Mark looked at Kira, who was trembling but trying to appear grave. I will go with them, she said. I will not let them harm you because of me. No, Mark said firmly. You're under my protection now. Mark, you don't understand. They will kill you without hesitation. Maybe, Mark said, moving to the station's defense controls. But I won't let them take you. As he activated the station's shields and weapons, Mark felt something surge through the mental connection he shared with Kira. Her courage flowed into him, mixing with his own determination. At the same time, his protective instincts seemed to strengthen her resolve. The bond, Kira whispered in amazement. It's making us stronger. The first energy blast from the Void Hunter ships struck the station's shields. The impact sent vibrations through the entire structure, but the shields held. This station wasn't built for combat, Mark said, checking the defense systems. We've got maybe an hour before they break through. Kira moved to stand beside him at the control console. Then we make that hour count. I know their ship designs, their weaknesses. As they worked together to defend the station, Mark felt the bond between them growing stronger. Their thoughts began to synchronize, their actions becoming perfectly coordinated. What had started as a chance encounter was becoming something much more powerful. Outside, the Void Hunter ships continued their assault, but they were about to discover that a bonded pair, even a new one, was far more dangerous than they had expected. Asterisk. Fighting as one. The station shook as another energy blast hit the shields. Mark watched the power levels dropping steadily on his screen. At this rate, they had maybe 30 minutes before the defenses failed completely. The station shook as another energy blast hit the shields. Mark watched the power levels dropping steadily on his screen. At this rate, they had maybe 30 minutes before the defenses failed completely. Their ships have weak points near the engine cores, Kira said, her hand touching his shoulder. Through their bond, she shared detailed images of Void Hunter ship designs. If we can hit them there, we can disable their weapons. Mark felt her knowledge flow into his mind like he had studied those ships for years. The station's mining lasers might be powerful enough, but they're not designed for combat. The targeting system is too slow. Then we don't use the automatic targeting, Kira said. She moved to the secondary console. I can guide the shots through our bond. Your hands. My knowledge. Mark had never attempted anything like this before, but somehow it felt natural. As he took control of the mining laser array, he felt Kira's awareness merge with his. Through her eyes, he could see the enemy ships with perfect clarity, understanding their movement patterns and weak points. The first shot missed, but barely. The Void Hunters seemed surprised that the research station was fighting back with such accuracy. Again, Kira whispered, her voice both in his ears and his mind. The second shot struck the lead ship's engine core. The vessel spun out of control, its weapons going offline. The other two ships immediately changed their attack pattern, becoming more aggressive. They're angry now, Mark said, feeling sweat on his forehead as he concentrated on the targeting. Good, Kira replied. Anger makes them careless. Through their bond, Mark could feel Kira's memories of her homeworld's destruction, her pain at losing her family and friends. But instead of making her weak, these memories seemed to fuel her determination. Her strength flowed into him, while his protective instincts made her feel safer than she had in months. The third shot disabled another ship, but the remaining Void Hunter vessel was adapting to their tactics. It began moving in unpredictable patterns, making targeting almost impossible. It's learning, Mark said. Then we must learn faster, Kira replied. She closed her eyes and reached deeper into their bond. Mark felt her consciousness touch his more completely than before. For a moment, they weren't two separate beings fighting together. They were one mind in two bodies. The mining laser moved with impossible precision, tracking the enemy ship's chaotic movement perfectly. The shot struck exactly where it needed. Two, and the final Void Hunter vessel drifted powerless in space. Mark and Kira separated their minds, both breathing heavily from the effort. The station's alarms fell silent, and the emergency lights stopped flashing. "We did it," Mark said, hardly believing what had just happened. Kira smiled, the first time he had seen her truly happy since she arrived. "We did it together. The bond made us more than the sum of our parts." But their celebration was cut short by a new alarm, this one from the station's long-range sensors. "More ships incoming," Mark said, checking the displays. "A lot more." A dozen Void Hunter vessels appeared on the edge of the sensor range, moving toward Europa at high speed. These were larger than the first three, clearly designed for serious warfare rather than hunting. "They sent a fleet," Kira said, her fear returning. "We cannot fight so many." Mark looked at the approaching ships, then at Kira. Through their bond, he felt her despair, but also her unwavering trust in him. She believed he would find a way, even when she couldn't see one herself. "Maybe we don't have to fight them," Mark said slowly. "What if we could make them fight each other?" He brought up a map of the Jupiter system, showing the positions of various moons and space debris. Europa isn't the only thing in orbit here. There's a lot of industrial traffic, mining operations, research stations. Kira studied the display, her quick mind understanding his plan. "You want to lead them into a trap. The asteroid mining facility at Callisto has automated defense systems," Mark explained. "If we can make the Void Hunters think you're hiding there ... they'll attack the facility, and the defenses will respond," Kira finished. "But how do we convince them I'm there when I'm here?" Mark smiled. "We fake your ship's signature. I've got enough sensor data from when you arrived to create a believable copy." They worked quickly, modifying the station's communication array to broadcast a false signal. Through their bond, they coordinated perfectly, Mark handling the technical aspects while Kira provided the specific details of Thaler's ship signatures. Within minutes, they had created a convincing trail leading away from Europa toward Callisto. The fake signal suggested that Kira had repaired her ship and was trying to reach the mining facility for help. The Void Hunter fleet took the bait, changing course toward Callisto at maximum speed. "Now we wait," Mark said. But as they watched, the enemy ships disappeared toward the distant moon. Both Mark and Kira felt the bond between them reaching a critical point. They had fought together, trusted each other completely, and shared their deepest thoughts. The connection was becoming permanent, and they both knew it. The choice hours passed as Mark and Kira monitored the Jupiter system. Their plan had worked. The Void Hunter fleet had attacked the Callisto mining facility, only to be met by powerful automated defenses. Several enemy ships were destroyed, and the rest were forced to retreat to the outer system to regroup. But the temporary victory came with a cost. The bond between Mark and Kira had grown so strong that they could barely function when separated, by more than a few rooms. When Mark tried to check the outer sensors alone, he felt dizzy and weak. Kira experienced the same symptoms when she attempted to repair her damaged equipment in the cargo bay. "It's happening faster than normal," Kira said as they sat together in the station's small common area. "Usually the bonding process takes weeks or months. But the stress of combat, the life-or-death situation we face together, it has accelerated everything." Mark could feel her emotions as clearly as his own. Her love for him was growing stronger by the hour, mixed with guilt about trapping him in this situation. At the same time, his own feelings were deepening beyond anything he had ever experienced. "What happens if I choose not to complete the bond?" Mark asked quietly. Kira's pain hit him like a physical blow through their connection. "We would both suffer greatly," she whispered. "The bond is already too strong to break safely. We would spend the rest of our lives feeling incomplete, in constant emotional pain. And if I choose to complete it, then we become true mates, connected for life. We would share everything, joy, sorrow, even our remaining years. When one dies," the other follows quickly. Mark stood up and walked to the observation window, looking out at Jupiter's massive form hanging in the black sky. Kira's presence in his mind was like a warm flame, comforting and constant. The thought of losing that connection made him feel cold and empty. "I need to know something," he said without turning around. "Is what you feel for me real? Or is it just the bond forcing you to love me?" Kira joined him at the window, her reflection appearing beside his in the thick glass. "The bond cannot create love where none exists," she said softly. "It can only reveal and strengthen what is already there. I loved you from the moment you chose to help me instead of reporting me to your authorities. The bond simply made that love impossible to deny." Mark turned to face her, studying her alien features, the pale blue skin, the silver hair, the large violet eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with human standards of beauty. "What about my feelings?" he asked. "How do I know they're real?" "Look into your heart," Kira said, placing her hand on his chest. "What do you feel when you imagine never seeing me again? What do you feel when you think about me leaving with the next ship that passes by?" The thought sent a spike of panic through Mark that had nothing to do with their psychic connection. The idea of Kira leaving, of never again feeling her presence, in his mind was unbearable. "I feel like I'd lose part of my soul," he admitted. "Then you have your answer." Mark took her hands in his. They were warm and soft, despite being so different from human hands. "What kind of life would we have? You're an alien refugee. I'm a human researcher stuck on a moon in the middle of nowhere. We would have each other," Kira said simply. 4. "My people, that is everything. We do not measure life by wealth or status or achievements. We measure it by the depth of our connections, the strength of our bonds." "And children?" Mark asked. "Is that even possible?" Kira's cheeks darkened in what he now recognized as a blush. The Thaler have always been able to adapt to other species when love is involved. Our bodies change to accommodate our mate's biology. If we both desire children, we will find a way. Mark felt a vision flow through their bond, images of a possible future. A small home somewhere safe, children with his dark hair and her violet eyes growing old together while their love only deepened with time. "The Void Hunters will keep hunting you," he said. "They'll never give up. Then we'll keep running, keep fighting, together." Kira's grip on his hands tightened. "But Mark, I need you to choose freely. Not because the bond compels you, not because you feel sorry for me, but because you truly want this life with me." Mark looked into her eyes and saw his own future reflected there. Not the future he had planned, safe and predictable on Europa, but something far more dangerous and infinitely more meaningful. "I choose you," he said. "I choose us." Kira's joy exploded through their bond like sunlight breaking through clouds. She pulled him close, and as their lips met for the first time, Mark felt the bond between them settle into place with an almost audible click. They were no longer two separate beings who happened to love each other. They were two halves of one soul, finally made whole. New beginnings. The completed bond changed everything. Mark woke the next morning with Kira's dreams still echoing in his mind, memories of her home world before the Void Hunters came, filled with crystal cities and singing forests. At the same time, she stirred beside him, having experienced his own memories of Earth through their shared sleep. "Your world is beautiful," Kira whispered, her head resting on his shoulder. "All that blue water and green life. I can see why. Humans are so protective of their home." "Your world was beautiful too," Mark replied, stroking her silver hair. "We'll find the other survivors of your people. We'll help them rebuild." Through their bond, they both felt the truth of that promise. This wasn't just about their love anymore. It was about something larger. the Thaler ability to bond across species lines could change the galaxy, bringing different races together in ways the Void Hunters couldn't destroy. The station's communication system chimed with an incoming message. Mark reluctantly left the bed to check it, feeling curious amusement at his human need to immediately respond to alerts. The message was from Earth Command, and it made Mark's blood run cold. Dr. Rivers, our long-range sensors detected combat near your position yesterday. A fleet ship is being dispatched to investigate and evacuate all personnel. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Please confirm your status immediately. Mark looked at Kira, who had gotten up to read the message over his shoulder. Through their bond, he felt her fear mixing with determination. "They'll separate us," she said quietly. "Your people will want to study me, learn about my species. The military will see me as a weapon or a threat. Not if we're not here when they arrive," Mark said. He began pulling up star charts on his computer, looking for systems beyond Earth's immediate sphere of influence. There are colonies out in the frontier worlds, places where Earth Command doesn't have much control. Independent settlements that don't ask too many questions. Kira placed her hand on his back, and he felt her love and gratitude flow through their connection. "You would leave everything behind for me?" "I already have," Mark said, turning to kiss her forehead. "The moment I opened that airlock door, I chose a different life." They spent the next day preparing to leave Europa. Mark downloaded all his research data and sent his resignation to Earth Command, citing personal reasons for his immediate departure. He didn't mention the alien woman who had changed his entire world. Kira's ship had been badly damaged, but her technical knowledge, combined with Mark's engineering skills, enhanced by their bond, allowed them to make it spaceworthy again. The repairs would hold long enough to reach the frontier worlds. As they worked, Mark felt the full power of their completed bond. They moved in perfect synchronization, understanding each other's thoughts before they were spoken. When Kira needed a tool, Mark was already handing it to her. When Mark struggled with alien technology, Kira guided his hands with gentle mental touches. "Is this what marriage feels like for your people?" Mark asked as they tested the ship's engines. "This is deeper than marriage," Kira replied. "Marriage is a promise. Bonding is a reality that cannot be broken." On their final night at the research station, they sat together watching Jupiter rise over Europa's icy horizon. In a few hours, they would leave forever, beginning a new life among the stars. "Do you have any regrets?" Kira asked. Mark considered the question seriously. He was leaving behind his career, his home world, his entire previous life. By human standards, he was giving up everything for a woman he had known for less than a week. But when he looked at Kira, felt her presence in his mind and heart, he knew he had never been more certain of anything. "No regrets," he said. "Only excitement for what comes next." Through their bond, he felt Kira's relief and joy. She had been afraid that he would eventually resent the choice he had made, that human nature would make him long for his old life. "What about you?" Mark asked. "Any regrets about bonding with a primitive human?" Kira laughed, the sound like music in both his ears and his mind. "Primitive? You defeated a Void Hunter fleet with mining equipment and clever tactics. You chose love over safety, adventure over comfort. That's not primitive. That's evolved." As Jupiter's massive form filled more of the sky, Mark felt the future stretching out before them, full of unknown challenges and infinite possibilities. They would find other Thaler survivors, maybe help them establish a new colony. They would explore worlds that no human had ever seen. They would face dangers together that would make the Void Hunter attack seem simple. But most importantly, they would never face anything alone. The bond between them was unbreakable, a connection that transcended species and would last for all. their remaining days. When the Earth Command ship arrived at Europa 3 days later, they found only an empty research station and a note thanking them for years of loyal service. Dr. Mark, Rivers and his alien mate were already far beyond the reach of human space, beginning the greatest adventure of their lives together among the stars.